everyone, it's Katie. Welcome to my channel. Okay, last night was the next episode of season 8's part 2 for Teen Mom OG. And I'm going to do things differently for this recap because I'm just not going to talk about the content that was in this episode that was not related to Amber Portwood, because this episode was primarily about Amber Portwood. And the other stories that were in it just weren't really that necessary. I'll just let you know that Mackenzie's marriage with Josh was a focal point, and her discussing potentially wanting to end things and them being separated. And Cheyenne and Corey had some back and forth about the best decisions about dealing with Ryder. And beyond that, and then Mackenzie and Ryan took Bentley golfing, and they were not happy that Jen and Larry came. So those are those things. The rest of the episode was about Amber. So the episode actually started out with Caitlin calling Maci and letting Tyler know that she was going to go see Amber, and she had spoken to Amber, and Amber had asked her to be there for her at her court case, at her first hearing for the court case. During the conversation, Caitlin said that, she wanted to be there for her because, she had been in similar situations with feeling the way that Amber has, and she wanted to make sure that Amber knew that she was supported. Tyler, for his part, did not look very thrilled that she was going to go. He seemed very why are you doing this? Are you sure? He was rubbing his temple, rubbing his face, just he didn't look like he actually bought it or agreed with her choice to leave. She then called Maci, and Maci said, "Do you know what's going on?" Both of them knew nothing about what had happened, and they just decided regardless they were going to go. So they end up going to Indiana along with Cheyenne to support Amber in court. When they arrive actually in Indiana, the girls are driving to go pick Amber up, and they're actually talking in the car, and they admit that, they've only heard what's been in the media. And even though they've heard what's been in the media, they say that, the media only puts out one side. It's their media side. Actually, I will say this, and I'm going to interject, that the media put out what was in the reports related to the case. The media wasn't putting out anything beyond that at this point because very little was known. There was just information from the initial incident and from the court case that was on the Indiana court system. And then there was the information about the actual when she was arrested. So beyond that, there wasn't a whole lot known. And then it was whatever, was said in the media. But in the very early stages, in the very early days, very little had been discussed openly. So no one was really talking about anything. The media was only sharing what was in the public records. So Caitlin's I don't even read it because I know there's things out there about me that just aren't true. Okay, Caitlin. And then she says, Cheyenne goes on to say that, no matter what happens, Amber deserves support. Amber deserves friends. Amber deserves to know that she's loved and has something to fall back on and has people that have her back no matter what. They all agree that they aren't going to listen to the media because things in the media could be completely wrong. When they actually go to pick up Amber, Caitlin says, she can't even imagine how she's feeling right now. How can she even be getting through this? And they all give her a group hug, and Amber goes on to say that, that seeing them is making her feel better. And then immediately she goes into how Andrew has somehow devised a master plan. So she says that things had been weird between her and Andrew for a few months leading up to this. And then after hiring her attorneys and looking at bank statements, she said, he has my car. He's living in my home. He's, now he's got everything he wants. So it's time to get me out. Yeah, I'm sure Andrew wanted to take your house in Indiana, where he's not from, take your car, which he didn't need because he was from Malibu, and get you out of your house. What does that even mean? That doesn't even make sense. He was in love with you, Amber. She basically accuses him of taking everything, her home, and that was the master plan. And then the girls are just of course. You're just so trusting, Amber. You're just always so trusting of these guys. It's, And then she talks about how Leah knows what's going on, and she said that Leah had let her know, she said Leah had called her and said that, I'm thinking about you. I know that you have to go tomorrow. I know Daddy and Christina are going to go there with you. I just want to know that I'm thinking about you. And she said that it's just really hard because she can't see her son James right now, who, by the way, I've interviewed 2 people, Nanny, her former nanny, and her former housekeeper, housekeeper, that have both said that Amber spent very limited time with James. But during her trip with the girls, she talks about how it's just so hard to be away from him, even though both Rhonda and the nanny said that she spent like less than an hour a day with James. Anyways, you can see those videos on this channel. So then after that's done, they go back to, let's see, they're going to court. Now, when they're in court, this is the interesting part. I want to show you this. So this was actually Amber when she saw him, when they actually arrive in the court. That was her face as Andrew walked in past her. And so when she arrives at the court, she's with all of the production from MTV. She's with Gary and Christina and her mom. She's also with Maci, Cheyenne, and Caitlin. So she goes in with this massive entourage. Andrew is completely alone. He looks very uncomfortable, and he almost appears to be on his phone as a way to sort of like not have to interact, because he can't interact with her because there's a RO. All right. So during the hearing, they can't actually go in the court and take their cameras, but they basically come out, and then she's just like, I can't believe it. Like, I was basically like, I was like crying, and he showed no emotion. And then this is like Maci, total narcissist. Yeah, that's what she called Andrew. So, anyways, the judge lifts part of the order of the TRO against her so that she can spend time with James. And then she said she also learns that they put a gag order on the custody part of it, so they can't speak about that aspect of it. And then she says that while she's in tears talking to her lawyer, Andrew showed no emotion. And then Macy's just like, we were all just totally freaked out for you. Then, after that happens, she's grateful that she gets to see James because she didn't want to have to be a part-time mom, but she already is. I digress. Then they go to Gary and Christina's house, and this is where you can start to see that MTV is going to continue this narrative that Andrew had a master plan to take her money in her house and everything else, because that makes complete sense. Why would you want a house in Indiana and a car and a kid when you're literally from Malibu? But all for a reality TV, right? And then Gary and Christina are sitting there on the couch, and he goes, how do you think the court case went? She goes, it was great to see that so many people were there to support her. And I just think there's a lot that goes on behind closed doors that we don't know about. And Gary's like, yeah, I think he's a really manipulative person. Gary, you literally went through the exact same thing that Andrew went. The exact same thing. You went through the exact same thing. Does that mean that you're a manipulative person? Oh, wait, I kind of think you are. Because if you're going to go on MTV for a paycheck and then smear a guy that basically had the exact same relationship that you did and had Amber treating him exactly like she treated you when your kids were about the same age, who's the manipulative person here? And it's certainly, I'm sure you're not going to say it's you, right? I'm sure it's Andrew, right? Oh, wait, it's Amber. That's right. So there's Amber with her crocodile tears, and she couldn't actually get the tears out, so I wasn't buying it. Then she's back with her friends in the hotel room, and she's like, I'm just never going to give a man a chance again. I give and I give and I give, and I just give so much. And then the girls are like, you just don't deserve this, Amber. You were so wronged. I can't believe Andrew did this to you. And she's like, I don't want to be an every other day mom. And then she tries to cry and no tears come out. And then she says that she feels like everyone is looking at her like she's a POS. Well, they kind of were at this point, but I digress. Anyways, then we actually have her sort of at this point, the Oh. Then they ride back home. Caitlin goes to some doctor to talk about getting off some meds. And then Maci is home and she talks to some people about some stuff. Actually, Maci tells Taylor, Amber's as good as she could be, but she's not great. Not really. She's actually scared and she's hurt. She's not been able to see James. It's just not a good situation overall. And Taylor was all like, well, you can support her, but don't support the actions. Literally, the voice of reason here is Taylor, not Maci, not Tyler, not Caitlin, not Cheyenne. It's Taylor. Don't support the action. Because literally not one of them has said anything about the action. Because nothing was said about the action. Because Amber's like, I can't really talk about that. Sorry. So, then we get Larry in the car. Yeah, this guy. Smuggled Larry. He's the executive producer, and there's David, the field producer for that films Amber. And he's like in the car, and he's like, so Andrew, we just really feel like we need to get your side of things. And then while he's saying this, like, this is Larry's face. So it's pretty clear from the jump that Larry is just like, whatever, I'm not going to believe anything that you say, Andrew. This is just for like P's and Q's to make sure that we tie up all of our loose ends here. They finally arrive later that day at Andrew's house and Amber's house, obviously. And by the way, she goes on to say that he took her house, but they actually agreed that that's where James lived. And because of the TRO, and then when the permanent RO was put into place, because Andrew had established residency in that home, it was his legal address, along with being the legal address of James, it made more sense for Amber to leave than it was for Andrew. And because Andrew is the primary custodian, yes, that's right, he has 100% full custody of James, with Amber getting like 2 to 3 days a week of a couple hours at a time visitation, no overnights. They agreed that the best place to stay would for James to stay in the place that he was, where he was the most comfortable, so they didn't have to uproot his life. But she was basically saying that he stole it from her. So what is it, Amber? He stole the house, or James is staying there because that's his home, and that's the home that you let Andrew move into to establish your legal residence. What is it, Amber? Please tell me. Plus, I should note that the home is completely paid off. There's not a mortgage. So anything there'd only be taxes and insurance that would have to be paid along with utilities, which I'm not sure if Amber's actually paying for. I would guess not, since she's not living there. Anyways, they get to the house and they said, Larry's just like, we've been documenting stories for a long time. And it's just like, we've never, ever been able to, do this with only having one side. And then they put this pish posh like editing job of basically Andrew saying like she doesn't remember when she does this, or else she doesn't want to talk about it, which if you want to, you can listen to the millions of audio clips I've played out that have been released on this channel of having what Amber has done to him. And then he says that, he's tried and tried, but it's not his job to make her get better. She has to do that herself. And then they completely cut the audio where you can tell it's been clipped and pieced together. And then he just says, well, I'm just like not going to do this unless, I get paid the same amount as everyone else. And then it clips out and it says, Andrew agreed no longer to be filmed. So it was pretty clear that the narrative that they want to paint is Amber is the person that is being set up, Andrew is the person that is setting Amber up, and that he wanted her house and more money from MTV, and that was his MO. Which, by the way, Andrew actually quit the show before they showed up. His request for more money was because he wasn't making very much at all. Amber had left the home. It was his only income. Not only that, because he had already quit and he knew that they weren't going to give a raise, he basically said that at the end, according to what he posted on Instagram, which I'll show you in a second, because he knew they'd say no. It was just to prove a point, that it was all about a storyline for them, which he didn't want to be a part of. And now that it's playing out on TV, here's what Andrew had to say. So last night, I actually had a chance to speak to Andrew. I reached out to him via text message, and Andrew was so upset. Furious, I should say, because he knew this is exactly what was going to happen. Even though it's rehashing old memories, He said that this is exactly why he walked away, because he knew that he would be painted unfavorably and that Amber would be using this as a means to make a redemption story and sort of diminish or minimize what actually happened on that night in question. So he said this. It's been an eye-opening experience. The only way I could consider continuing doing the same show with the person who inflicted such pain and ABUSE upon James and I would have been if we were paid the same as our ABUSE are. Seems only fair. Anything else would be wrong on so many levels and as an insult. That was my point for continuing to be. That was my price for continuing to be MTV's punching bag. I knew they would say no, and I had already quit in my mind. It proved that they do not see James and I as equals on the show. Since being ABUSD hit, blah, 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 humiliated and lied about in the press, I've only been partially paid for one interview, and I haven't filmed anything other than that. And I won't. James and I are out. So what people saw was back in November or so when the decision to quit was made. If we are not seen as equals to the person who did this to us, then we cannot work for her handlers and must separate ourselves as much as possible, which is exactly which is exactly what happened. And then he continued, already done. We have been free for a while now, and there is no looking back. And he said, it doesn't matter. It was just to prove a point. We've been quit for some time now. He has never been second in my mind. Once I saw them side with her and silence us, we already quit. This this is regurgitated old news, but wrapped in a shiny new package for you viewers. We are done and gone. No reunion, no filming, none of it. Now, I did speak to him a couple weeks ago, and they did want him to come to filming, and he declined. And then other people started offering him support. This person said, hope everything goes okay. I think she kind of rushed into this relationship. Should have gave herself time to heal. I'm not sure I don't think Andrew doesn't know the disease. And he said, you don't follow our case close enough. If you did, you wouldn't be saying that because it's already been discussed in court files. Take your aggression elsewhere, hombre. And my anxiety and depression came from after I was first attacked, not from the worst in the last night, when I finally stood up for my son and myself. It was a slow build. I saw numerous doctors regarding tightness in my chest and at one point an inability to move. I thought I was dying or had cancer. He also went on to say, after speaking with many who have gone through these things, I've come to understand that those are just labels used to get away with some really horrible action. So he's basically saying that she's using her labels to justify her behavior. I now suffer from depression and anxiety because of what I've endured. I know full well what it feels like, more so now than ever, but it will never come in the way of me being kind to others, especially to those I love or own or my own child. So he's basically saying it doesn't matter, MTV, like, you can't use this as a crutch. This isn't why she does what she does. I mean, yes, does she have issues? Absolutely. But does that mean that she can use that carte blanche to treat him like that? And if you have any concerns, I can link some cards. I'm going to put some cards in here of some audio that you can listen to, and you can decide whether or not this was about her and her illness, or this is just her being the G that she thinks she is and likes to portray. So this was the episode. I expect there to be massive backlash. I also expect there to be some backlash against Andrew because MTV has now painted him as the villain and Amber as the like the woe is me, like, maiden who has been set up and she's being like burned, to the stake because it's all a lie. It's like this witch hunt, which isn't true. So this is what I've got. I want to know what your thoughts are. Were you as outraged as I was, or did you actually think that Andrew was doing this? I must note too that the timelines here are so all over the place because her court date was in July. Caitlin and Tyler went to Hawaii in September. So they are definitely like fabricating a timeline. And then they spoke to Andrew in November. So they make it seem like it all happened at the same time, and it didn't. They literally didn't reach out to Andrew until after the audio came out, and they realized that they needed to have his side, and they hadn't spoken to him. Think about that. Allegedly. All right, you guys, I will be back later with more. I'd love to hear your comments, and I will link the actual audios in a card. Bye, guys.